here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat, bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
When I first heard about microdosing really coming on the scene was in reference to Silicon Valley and using it as more of a biohacking tool for increased creative processes, productivity, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing a lot more conversations of why people would be using this. So can you give our listeners an idea of, why would somebody do this? What's it best for?
The use cases are so wide and varied now, right? Like you mentioned Silicon Valley, that was probably the first place that it really caught on fire, so to say. And that's simply because Tim Ferriss had Jim Fadiman on the podcast. Jim is the father of microdosing. Everyone in Silicon Valley listened to Tim back in 2015. So boom, here we are. And then in 2016 or 2017, this woman, Eilette Waldman, who was a professor at Cal Berkeley, her husband is a pretty famous writer, Michael Chabon. Mm-hmm. She had been on a litany of psychiatric medications and had tried microdosing LSD for 30 days and wrote a book about it called A Really Good Day. And so after that book came out, and that was published by Knopf. So after that book came out, it all of a sudden opened up all these middle-aged mothers who maybe had been on SSRIs or different psychiatric medications, had been struggling with, even postpartum depression or other aspects of raising a family. And they were looking to microdosing to potentially help wean off those psychiatric medications as something that's much more, much less addictive and has much fewer side effects and feels much better overall. And then as word has continued to sort of get out there, a lot of folks who, for example, college students who are used to doing Adderall and Ritalin and Vyvanse, these really intense medications for ADHD, they're looking at microdoses as a way to help with cognitive performance, attention, motivation, and focus. A lot of folks who are maybe in their 70s or even in their 80s are looking to microdosing just to help with maintaining cognitive flexibility at an older age, to help with overall mood and energy. Mm-hmm. So I would say those are probably, like, if we're from a generational perspective, college kids, creatives, leaders, entrepreneurs, mothers, and retirees kind of covers the entire spectrum, and each one has a slightly different intention. But the core underlying aspect is a lot of these people don't necessarily, either they have prior psychedelic experience with high doses, and they simply, they recognize that a lot of the benefits from microdosing are significant, and they don't need to do a massive journey in order to feel a little happier, a little more connected. Sure. Or a lot of these people are, they're maybe more conservative, or they're just, rule followers, or they've never done a psychedelic in their life, and they're looking at microdosing as a way to start to engage in a relationship with these substances. And it's a very soft entry point. A lot of folks who are getting into psychedelics go and smoke 5-MeO DMT right off the bat, which I think is a huge mistake oftentimes.
Straight out of into the stratosphere.
Yeah, that intensity, while some folks can handle it, a lot of folks can't, and they don't want to. So I feel like microdosing is acting as a great entry point to recognize that psychedelics are not what we've been taught, that there's no really reason for them to be illegal, that they're highly stigmatized and misunderstood. And I think microdosing is the bridge to full, widespread cultural legalization of psychedelic substances.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.